I can't believe I'm actually doing another podcast already. First thing I want to say real quick is don't get used to this. Now, I am going to do rankings within the HBH podcast series, but this isn't something I'm going to do all the time. But I've decided since I ranked the Michael Myers actors, I might as well rank the Jason Voorhees actors. You know, it makes sense, right? So this one's going to be pretty fun. Now I'm going to have 7 actors to talk about. I'm going to talk about only the main actors once again, like I did with the Halloween Michael Myers actors. Why did I have to say Halloween there? I don't know. I'm not going to talk about Ari Lehman or Tom Morga because, Ari Lehman played Kid Jason in the 1980 film for like 10 seconds. And Tom Morga, that's Roy Burns. That's not even Jason Voorhees. So I'm going to leave them out of this ranking. So I have 7 actors to talk about, and I am going to go from worst to best like I did with the Halloween. Why do I keep saying Halloween? Why can't I just say the Michael Myers actors? I don't know what's wrong with me, but same deal on this podcast. I'm going to go from worst to best. So, with that being said, let's just go ahead and get right into this. Number 7 on my list is going to Ken Kersinger from Freddy vs. Jason. Now, I know a lot of people have problems with crossovers, a lot of people have a problem with Freddy vs. Jason as a film. I think it's a good movie. But Ken Kersinger's performance as Jason to me is the weakest. Now, I'm not saying that he's bad. I'm really not saying that any of these actors are bad. I'm actually a fan of pretty much every person who's played Jason Voorhees. But since I'm going from worst to best and I'm ranking them, I'm putting Ken Kersinger at the end of the list because he's just not my favorite Jason. He's not my go-to Jason. When I think about the character, his performance doesn't pop up in my mind. So that's why I'm putting him number 7 on my list. And number 6 on my list is going to go to Derek Mears from the Friday the 13th remake, reboot, reimagining, whatever you want to call it. His Jason is brutal. He's a good Jason. He kind of reminds me of like Tyler Maine's Michael Myers. You know how brutal that Myers was. He's kind of like the Tyler Maine Michael Myers of the Friday the 13th franchise. And I actually like that. I like a really brutal Jason Voorhees. But again, like when I think of the character of Jason Voorhees, I don't think of Derek Mears' performance. Even though it's good, it's not the one that I go to. And that's the reason why these guys are at the end of my list. Not that they're bad, it's just they're not the ones that I think of. And they're definitely not my favorite Jasons, but they're fine, Why did I just say It's like I run out of like things to say and I just go, you know. Number 5 on my list is going to go to Steve Dash from Friday the 13th Part 2. This is a good Jason. Steve Dash is definitely one of the best, but he's not my favorite. I like Tater Sack Jason. This was the first film that had really Jason as the main character, obviously, because the original Friday the 13th focuses on Pamela Voorhees. But yeah, this was the first film with Jason as the main character, and Steve Dash did a good job. He's just not one of my favorites. And rest in peace, Steve Dash. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have a lot to say about part 2. It's one I don't watch enough either. It's a great sequel, in my opinion. It's one of those perfect horror sequels like Halloween 2 and Child's Play 2 and Nightmare 2. It's up there. I think it's a perfect sequel. It's just not my favorite Jason performance. So number 4 on my list is going to go to CJ Graham from Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. Now, this movie definitely refreshed the Friday the 13th franchise after Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning, where, Jason's not even in the movie. We have a copycat Jason. We get introduced to Roy Burns, and the franchise just needed a refresh. And Friday the 13th Part 6 does a great job at refreshing the franchise, and I felt like CJ Graham's performance was also a refresh for the character of Jason Voorhees. And as a Friday the 13th fan, I think that's amazing. I appreciate that, and his performance is just fun. It also kind of paved the way for Kane Hodder's performance, which we're going to talk about him here in a little bit. So without CJ Graham, I don't know if we would have the Jason that we all sort of know, because I feel like a lot of people, when they think of Jason Voorhees, they do think of Kane Hodder, which is fine, especially since he's been in 4 of the Friday the 13th films. So, he kind of paved that way for Kane Hodder, and I definitely respect that. And I think CJ Graham is a really awesome Jason. And, of course, he's in a really awesome Friday the 13th movie. Number 3 on my list is going to go to Richard Brooker from Friday the 13th Part 3. Now, this is a very special Jason to the Friday the 13th franchise because he's the actor and the Jason that got to wear the hockey mask for the first time, which is incredible. That's huge for the franchise, and I do think that his performance was definitely better than Steve Dash's from Friday the 13th Part 2. I think he really kind of made the character of Jason Voorhees what it is, and that's why I'm putting Richard Brooker so high on my list. And just Friday the 13th Part 3 is just an amazing film anyways, but his performance was pretty much everything. You kind of had a little bit of the later Jason, you had the early Jason that ran, and it just the hockey mask was everything. It's just I don't know how to explain it. It's Richard Brooker, man. Okay, I don't know what that was. Don't ask me what that was in the comment section down below because I will not answer you. But yes, Richard Brooker is definitely number 3 on my list. Big fan of him, big fan of the movie, and yeah. Now, number 2 on my list, I don't think would be a surprise to anyone due to the fact that this is definitely one of the best Jasons. This is definitely one of the best performances pretty much in any horror franchise, and it's going to Kane Hodder. I mean, this guy played Jason 4 times. He really made Jason who he is with the breathing and just the look of all of his Jasons. I mean, you can arguably say he's in the worst movies, which, he kind of is, but don't look at it from a movie standpoint. Look at the performance. I mean, Kane Hodder really embodied the character of Jason Voorhees, and he really cared about the character. He studied it. He was a fan of Jason even before he performed Jason in Part 7. And yeah, he definitely is the most dedicated to the character, and you can see that in his performances. So that's the reason why I'm putting him at number 2, because he almost can't be topped. He definitely is almost number 1, but I have a personal favorite, and I know a lot of people won't agree with me. A lot of people actually would put Kane Hodder as their number 1, and I think that's awesome, and I think he does actually deserve that spot as well. So for those of you who put Kane Hodder at your number 1, if you were ranking the actors, I'm not mad at you because I kind of don't think you're wrong, even though he's my number 2. But so number 1 on my list is going to my favorite Jason of all time. He's also in my favorite Friday the 13th movie of all time, and that is Ted White. He plays Jason in Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. Perfect slasher movie, perfect 80s horror movie, and just perfect performance. I mean, again, he kind of took what Richard Brooker did and did it even better. And he's so scary as Jason. I think he's even scarier than Kane Hodder's Jason. So that's why he's number 1 on my list, because I think Ted White is just untouchable as Jason Voorhees for sure. And again, a lot of people will disagree, and that's fine. But, all these actors are great. I'm not here to hate on anyone. I love all these guys. I think they do great jobs. It's just that some did better than others. That's just how it is. So, yeah, Ted White's definitely number 1. In my favorite Friday the 13th movie, my favorite Jason performance, and RIP Ted White. I think he ended up dying earlier this year. So, really sad, but great performance. So that is my ranking for the Jason Voorhees actors. I don't know how long this podcast even is. It might be shorter than the Michael Myers one, but it is what it is. Kind of surprised that I'm actually doing another HBH podcast this early because I'm usually lazy and I take like a month to make an episode. So I'm kind of excited about that. I hope it turned out well. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, leave a like and subscribe. That would help me out a lot. And I will talk to you guys soon.